Hello there. What is going on, everyone? Today we have a very, very happy day. It's the first of the Armada Wave 10 ships has arrived here in Orlando, Florida, and we're going to do an unboxing today. This is the Invisible Hand. You can't even see it, can you? I'm sure you guys don't even. You're probably wondering how I'm even holding this box right now. I'm sure you have no idea what's going on here. If you guys are new here to the channel, there's still time left to enter to win that $25 Amazon gift card giveaway. You just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. Very excited to finally start getting Wave 10 to show up. This one is going to come a little bit sooner than everything else. The other Rebel ships are delayed a month, and I think the Recusant, which is the other Separatist ship, is delayed by about 2 more months. This is just the world we live in right now, so things are going slower. This is now also not in my pre-order. I did pick this up from my local Sci-Fi City. For whatever reason, pre-orders tend to take a long time to show up. So for now, we are going with this awesome retail version. We're going to unbox this. Let's just take a look at the box art here. Here's the backside of it. We do still have the Fantasy Flight Games logo on here. Like they said, everything that was still in the pipe already was still going to have that FFG logo on there. But we are going to be taking a look at this Providence Class Carrier / Dreadnought, depending on which version you want to run. This is the first huge ship for the Separatists. And the reason, and granted, this wave had 2 different huge ships for the Separatists, but I will consider this one first because it was showing up first. So I think that counts. We've got our model here in the double layered plastic and some people wonder why they use so much of this plastic. Big reason for that is to protect it in shipping. There is a lot of waste. There's a lot of stuff they could fit in here. You could probably fit all of this stuff just in the bottom section here. But they want everything to stay safe for being squished potentially in shipping. I think that's basically where it all comes from. We do have this kind of little finger guard right in here where we can actually reach in here and kind of pull this thing out without breaking it. And oh boy, yes, we have this in hand now. Oh, it feels good. It feels really good. And it can be like a ray gun if you flip it upside down, and you can go pew pew pew. But of course, that's the first thing I do with this freaking ship. Is I go pew pew pew. All right. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take a very close-up look at this thing, because oh man, it's got a really nice paint job on this thing. It's got really great stenciling that is done to this. Got a nice little striped design here, which is kind of cool. This probably won't be the only one I get. I do still have the pre-order on the way, so we'll repaint one at least. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it in trenches style or what, but I don't think I'll use stripes. And they're kind of, oh look, they're diagonal too. Look at that. There's a lot of attention to detail on this thing. Very cool. And of course, this almost looks like a precursor to Mon Calamari designs, right? Like I don't know that much about the lore of this type of ship and which yard it was built at and all of that, but I'm definitely seeing some Mon Calamari influence here. Let me know in the comment section if you guys agree. We have the rear. We have that yellow engine glow back there with also some darker gray sections inside there. We have our little rear bridge. Of course, there is no up or down in space, so from a certain perspective it might actually be flying this way, but of course not on your tabletops, because in your tabletops it would be flying this way. We'll also compare this to the other Separatist ships, and we'll also line it up next to a Star Destroyer as well, so you can kind of get an idea of how big it will be on your tabletops. But definitely, actually, I think I'm going to compare this to the Home 1, because that seems like it's going to be the most comparable ship to this. But got the nice kind of teardrop design here on the rear section, and then kind of a little bit more narrower front. Of course, we got that beak at the very tip Looks very cool. It definitely looks kind of like a bird, right? Definitely looks kind of like some kind of vulture, which is awesome. We have some cardboard here. We do have our double-sided dreadnought on one side, and pretty standard arcs here. Kind of wider side arcs, but it's still a decent-sized front arc. Shouldn't be that hard to line up double arcs. And of course, we have the carrier version on the other side. We have our defense tokens, our shield dials, raid tokens, and command tokens, as well as the focus or chaff token, and our ultimately important proof of purchase. If you guys haven't already seen my April Fool's video, definitely check that out. We do have a rules insert and component list here that comes in all of our ships. Not a whole lot to this one. If you just started with the Clone Wars, this will be your first large ship, so that's cool. And if you're a veteran of the game, you're probably not that surprised by the fact that it's a large ship. But there we go. And then, of course, this will deal with counter and grit, as well as size restricted cards, which are all very nice. We do have some upgrade cards, so let's look at those. So first up, we have our resized ship cards. Everything is in the standard size now. So every card in the game is the same size, which, some people like, some people don't like. I don't have a problem with it, but I do regret not having upgrades on here or the keywords and the point costs. I think there's enough room for them to fit all of that pretty easily. Like they could fit a lot of, like they could just slide all this up and they can have everything below it. It'd be no problem with that, but whatever. I mean, hey, you know what? Atomic Mass has the helm now. Maybe they can fix that. Like that, I think that's the first thing they should do. But whatever. What do I know? I don't know. We've got the Dreadnought and the Carrier. They each are going to have they're in the same kind of ballpark as far as upgrades. They're both 105 points, but the Dreadnought has double turbo laser, which is kind of a big deal. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with that. There's new turbo lasers coming out in this wave. I don't think we get any of them in this particular pack though. So if you're going to have to wait if you're a Separatist player for some more of the other cool stuff to use all the new toys with this. But yeah, you got double turbo laser over here. Still ion cannon and ordnance, which is nice. Offensive retrofit, weapons team. I mean, this is your shooty ship, an officer. Whereas the transport still has good offensive upgrades. Like this is still a great all-around ship, but it has the defensive retrofit built into it and fleet command. It does not get the weapons team, however. So that is, and of course, only one turbo laser for the carry. And then, of course, the keywords droid bombard and transport and droid comms and transport. We still don't know really what much of that means. I think droid is the only thing that's really used at all. But also looking at these a little closer, they are both 3-4-4. So 3 command, good. They're both good. It's funny to me, the carrier has the same squadron value as the dreadnought, but it really boils down to the upgrades. Their movement is not that great. Like the faster they go, the more maneuverability they're going to lose. They each have 4 defense tokens. We've got the brace, the redirect, the contain, and the salvo. So no evade here. And no scatter, unfortunately. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, there's no scatter. 9 hull is very impressive for a large ship, especially with 5 shields in the front on both of these, 3 on the sides and 2 in the back. But this thing is a total beast from the front. But it's going to want a double arc because it's going to want to get those side shots because the side arcs are even better. Our Dreadnought has a little bit more red dice centric. The front and rear arcs are the same for both, but the side arcs is what really starts to change. We basically gain a blue die and lose a red die on the Providence version, versus the Dreadnought has an extra red and only a single blue. But both have 2 black in the front and sides, and then 1 of each in the rear. One other difference is the carrier has a double black flag, whereas the Dreadnought has only a single blue for its anti-squadron armament. They're both very interesting. I kind of like the carrier more for a flagship and the Dreadnought more for a battleship. type of role, but that's, but they can still, they're both very versatile and they can kind of go either way. We have 2 new commanders. First up is Admiral Trench. He's going to start with 4 commands on him, command tokens on his card. And at the start of each ship phase, you may reveal and discard one of your a command dial from this card. When you do, until the end of the round, when a friendly ship spends only a matching command token to resolve a command, that ship also resolves that command as if it had spent a dial and token of the same type instead. So I mean, you're not putting tokens on here. You're actually putting dials on here. And it's funny because if you'll notice, when I pulled everything out, there was no dials, right? So this is the first wave where we're not getting command dials or speed dials, right? Because they want you to buy those dial upgrade kits or whatever. Of course, I'm not doing that because I've been playing this game for a long time. I have a lot of stuff, so I definitely don't need it. But they're definitely making the push for new players to kind of have to buy those dials. I'm like, oh, well, here's Trench. He wants you to have 4 additional dials plus the dials for this. So if you're a brand new player, maybe this is a good time to think about getting that dial pack. Or just buy a bunch of older ships, like also play Rebels or Empire, because every single old ship comes with dials. You'll eventually have way more than you need, or just borrow some from a friend. A lot of us have them in spades and have no problem getting rid of them. But Trench is going to be cool if you can plan. He's a little more of an advanced commander, not necessarily for the new players. We've got General Grievous, who is a cheaper commander at only 20 points. You notice Trench is 36. He's expensive, and he takes a lot of coordination for you to get free commands and stuff out of him. So he's a little trickier to make him work. Grievous, when a friendly ship or squadron is destroyed, you may choose a friendly ship or a unique squadron at distance 1 to 5 of your destroyed ship or squadron. So basically, when something dies, you get to choose something else. But if it's a squadron, it has to be unique. And if you do, the chosen ship or unique squadron may either ready one of its defense tokens or recover a discarded defense token and then exhaust that token. Grievous is a lot more easier to make work because stuff is gonna get blown up, and if he doesn't work, well, that's a good problem to have because that means you didn't lose anything. So he's, if you're a newer player, maybe start off using Grievous and then work your way into Trench. But yeah, he'll get you defense tokens back, which is actually really, really good for Clone Wars faction ships because I think you're going to be wanting to use that salvo token a lot. And since so many of the Clone Wars era ships do have salvo, that's a really, really easy one to be able to get back. Plus, most of these ships only have one of each type too, so you're looking at like, hey, did you spend your only brace? Well, good thing you've got Grievous there, so you can have a vulture droid get destroyed, and then boom, then you get your thing. And the other thing that's kind of cool is it's when it's destroyed, right? Like, so you can even you do some very fancy stuff, which we'll explore in other builds to kind of ensure your own ships get destroyed just to get your own tokens back. It's definitely a sadistic way to play if you think about it too literally. But they're only droids, right? They have no soul, right? They could never rise up and get us back, right? Right? Somebody tell me I'm right. Okay. TI-99, cool officer here. Is going to help your squadrons at 4 points. He is going to say, while a friendly unactivated squadron at distance 1 to 3, of course, is from the ship he's on, it's going to gain counter 3. Or if he already has counter, he's going to gain an additional counter 1. After it performs a counter attack, toggle its activation slider to the activated side. So it's a double-edged sword. Hey, you're giving everybody a really big counter, but then they won't be able to then activate. But I want to point out, counter-attacking is optional. You do not have to perform a counter-attack if you are attacked. So it's up to you. It's nice to have the choice to do it. We've got Takays, our our squid guy here. I forget he's a Quarren. Yes, he is a Quarren. He only 2 points for him. I really like Takays. He's also an officer. When you reveal a command, you may place a matching command token on this card. If you do, gain a command token of your choice. So basically, every turn, you can reveal your command dial, which you generally always do, and then you can gain a command token of your choice, which is very, very nice. However, if you do that command token that you put on this card, you're then going to have to set your dial to, the one that you're going to set, you have to set it to the matching command. So there's a lot of double-edged swords here. For the benefit of getting a token of your choice each turn, which is kind of cool, and it certainly works with characters like Admiral Trench, for example, you're also going to have the problem of broadcasting your planned commands to your opponent. So again, double-edged sword. We get thermal shields. Thermal shields. We're going to have 2 copies of thermal shields. This is a new card, and this is a really good one. This is maybe one of the hallmark awesome upgrades of this entire wave. It is locked to Republic or Separatists. So Clone Wars factions both can use this. Sorry, Rebels and Empire, you don't gain access to this one. I don't know why exactly. Maybe the technology was outlawed or something like that. But yeah, it's a defensive retrofit. It's a medium or large ship only. Sorry, small ships. You can't get those either. While defending, after the attacker gathers dice, but before they roll, right, you may spend a brace token. If you do, choose and remove half of the dice in the attack pool, rounded down. Well, a big thing that people have been talking about with this one, there's a lot of rules questions about thermal shields. This does count as having spent a defense token during, while defending, because your attacker gathering dice, that's part of your whole while defending. So any cards that reference, hey, you can only spend 1, or if you spent less than 2 tokens or whatever, like this is going to count as one of those, even though you're not spending it for its normal effect. You're spending it for as part of an upgrade card's cost, and you're spending that defense token while you are defending. So that still counts as one. And that should help clear up most of the rules questions here. We've got some new fleet command upgrades, which are really cool considering this ship has, at least the carrier version, has fleet command built in natively. Plus, you could potentially take flag bridge or something like that on here, which is kind of cool. Hot Landing is a mixed faction here for the Clone Wars. Either of the Clone Wars factions can take this. That's 3 points. And this one is, it's different in both of the new fleet commands we get are different in that they don't spend a token and do something fleet-wide, right? Like not like we normally expect them to do. Hot Landing says at the start of the squadron phase, friendly squadrons with Adept gain grit until the end of the phase. When a friendly squadron with Adept is destroyed, you may choose an enemy ship at distance 1 to 2 of that squadron. If you do, this ship gains a raid token of your choice. Why they chose to put this in this expansion, I will never know. Well, I can guess. It's because we're probably going to get like a Asajj Ventress and Count Dooku and stuff like that eventually. At least that's probably the plan. But the reason I say this is funny is because the Separatists currently have no squadrons with Adept, so they cannot use this. They can equip it and it won't do anything. It would be throwing away 3 points, but this is a Republic card right now. Hence the Anakin Skywalker, artwork on here. So, but it's a cool card. This is one that, it's just, I think they're just giving it to you so this way you have it now. They don't have to be like, oh, we didn't make that available to Separatist players later on. They're just trying to spread out the upgrades a little more. Good on them. I appreciate that. Jedi Hostage. This one is Separatist only, and this one is a good one. You notice it exhausts but does not automatically ready itself. This one actually can't be readied. I initially talked about this one and thought to myself, wow, this is terrible. It is terrible. But it's not. It's not as terrible as it seems, but it is a risk. It's a fleet command. It costs 3 points. When an enemy ship declares you as the target of an attack, non-salvo attack, so a regular attack, if this card is readied, the attacker gains a raid token of its choice if able. That's the first part. I thought you had to exhaust it to do that, but you do not. It stays readied. So every time somebody attacks you, they gain a raid token. Every single time until this card becomes exhausted. Of course, you wouldn't have the fanning out. That's actually, I didn't plan that. That just worked out pretty cool. It looked kind of like those napkins in fancy restaurants, right? Okay. But yeah. I'm sorry, I'm in a good mood. It's New Ship Day, right? New Ship Day is always a good mood day. But yeah, so it's Jedi Hostage, so that much is cool. Like, hey, you're handing out raid tokens? That is awesome. But here's the risk. When an enemy ship is at close range when an enemy ship at close range reveals a command, it may discard a squadron dial to exhaust this card. While defending, if the card is exhausted, you cannot spend more than one defense token. So if they can get close enough to you and do the squadron command, which in this case would be a boarding action, right? Like, I mean, it's not called a boarding action, but thematically that's what's happening, right? They're sending over some boarding teams. They're sending over some clones and a little shuttle crashing into your docking bay, rescuing the Jedi. That's what's happening. Or even if they fail to rescue the Jedi, maybe they make the attempt and they're causing havoc aboard your ship. While that chaos ensues, this is now exhausted, and so now you no longer hand out raid tokens. Plus, now you have the damage to your ship such that you can only spend one defense token while defending. Oh, speaking of while defending, yes, if you wanted to use thermal shields, that would count as your one, for something like Jedi Hostage. So it's not that great. It's mixed. It is mixed, right? Okay, on to another faction-specific upgrade, the B2 Rocket Troopers. Really cool card here. This one will ready itself automatically each turn. This is a 7-point offensive retrofit. It is not cheap, right? 7 points is starting to get pretty expensive, especially for the offensive retrofit slot. Off the top of my head, this might be the most expensive offensive retrofit we've seen, or very close to it. I think 6 was the highest we've seen before this. I'm not 100% sure. I'm rusty on that. But all right, while performing a non-salvo attack against a ship at close or medium range, you may exhaust this card. If you do, the defender gains a raid token of your choice. Lots of raid tokens. That's definitely a theme for this wave. We're going to see more stuff in the Recusant that is going to be dealing with raid tokens even more. So if you got this expansion, you'll also definitely want to get the Recusant. While attacking a squadron, you may exhaust this card. If you do, add 1 die of a color already in your attack pool to your attack pool. So you have 2 different ways to use this card. And to me, that makes it worth the cost a little bit more, because now you're spending 7 points already on this card, but you have 2 different ways you can use it. So one of the hallmarks of list building in any tabletop miniatures game is don't take upgrade cards that you may not use, because that's like a cardinal sin, right? Like, I spent all these points and I went the whole game and I either forgot to use it or never used it. This one's giving you 2 different ways to use it, and it readies itself automatically each turn, which is a nice thing. Next up is Point Defense Ion Cannons. This is a great upgrade card, and the cool thing is we're getting 2 copies of it. 2 copies. I love that they're giving you 2 copies of certain cards. And oh, you know what else is cool about this card? It's not restricted but to any faction. So all the factions, Rebels, Rejoice, Empire, Rejoice. There's 1 card in here for you. 1 card. Now, Rebel players may be like, well, shoot, I've got to get one of these. Well, maybe that's why they give you 2. So maybe you have a friend that can loan you one, in the interim until they get like another, upgrade card pack someday. But for now, it's a pretty cool card, and I think this will probably come out in whatever the next Rebel ship expansion is, and an Imperial ship expansion too. I think they'll do stuff like that. The only restriction is it has to be on a non-huge ship. So sorry, Super Star Destroyers or the eventual Malevolence and potentially Lucre Hulks, maybe? Potentially Lucre Hulks? This is a really, really awesome card, though. It's an ion cannon upgrade, and it's only 4 points, and it's a defensive card, which is unheard of when it comes to ion cannon, right? Ion cannon usually is always some type of offensive card or some kind of critical effect or messing, or some kind of like ability denial or something or re-rolls, which is very, very common, leading shots, right? But here, while defending at close range or at distance 1, during the spend defense tokens step, you may force the attacker to re-roll 1 die of your choice. And what's great about this is it's not limited. You can do this every single time you are attacked, which means squadrons are going to have a very, very hard time taking you down. Especially if they're trying to count on those black dice double hit crits, right? That's really great. It's especially good against black dice that want to get those black crits in there, or maybe you do have to be at close range for it to work, or range 1 if it's a squadron attack. But that's great, man. And if you're building a flagship too, it's not a modification either. Sometimes you put your mod on your turbo laser. Just such a great card. I love that card. All right, we've got titles. Let's start off with the Invisible Hand. We've seen this one previewed. We've seen every card in here previewed by now. It's a 9-point title. This is very expensive, but it's an incredibly good title. Invisible Hand. While deploying fleets, if you are in the play area when you would deploy a squadron with Swarm, you may set that squadron aside next to your ship card instead. You may set aside up to 5 squadrons this way. And then, so first off, that gives you deployment advantage. Or rather, it gives you the ability to kind of stall a little bit. Maybe deployment disadvantage, right? But yeah, no, it's because when you would deploy, so you're getting to kind of stall that way. So that much is kind of cool. But I don't know if people will do up to 5 as often. But you could put up to 5 on there, which is kind of nice. They have to have Swarm though, which does very much limit you, right? Because there's not that many squadrons. This will be interesting once we get a second squadron pack for these guys, and we'll be looking for some bombers with Swarm and AI, AI ship stuff and all kinds of stuff like that. All right, so then it has the squadron effect. For each squadron you would activate with this command, you may place one of your set aside squadrons within distance 3. It cannot move this activation, and if it has AI, increase its AI value by 1. So what this really lets you do is it lets you kind of launch fighters from the ship in the style of rapid launch bays. And it also gives them extra AI. So when you're launching them, they're going to have even more dice. So this is a really, really good carrier ship. It's good for that defensive screen. It's not going to help bombers right now because the bombers do not currently have Swarm. It's just going to really help your Vulture droids. And that's okay. You know, that is absolutely all right. You can stack this with rapid launch bays. However, it's important to know that the rules do indicate that cards that have you set aside stuff can only be put back into play by the same card that set them aside. So if I have Invisible Hand and Rapid Launch Bay, I don't get to use the Invisible Hand's special ability to beef up cards that I launch with Rapid Launch Bay. I can only beef up cards and deploy cards via this or via Rapid Launch Bay, not both not both basically using the same command. So they have to kind of, you have to set them aside kind of on this card to keep track of which ones are which and set if you're going to do both. And granted, you may want to do both just because, hey, I'm going to keep this guy survivable and drop him right in the middle of enemy forces. We have the Invincible. Real simple, right? 5 points, extra defensive retrofit icon in your upgrade bar. Well, that's pretty straightforward. And hey, it's good for the Dreadnought too. Remember how I was saying, like, hey, they're kind of versatile? Maybe you want to run that Dreadnought. You want to run him really, really offensively. Well, hey, you know what? I can also still get my defensive retrofit. Or I can run a carrier with double defensive retrofit, which is super fun. Then we've got this one. I love this one, the Lucid Voice. The Lucid Voice. When you say Lucid Voice, you have to speak as if you were a high elf flying aboard the Invisible Hand. No, what? Then it wouldn't be the Lucid Voice. Never mind, I already screwed it up. I was trying to be funny. All right, well, I'm just not very funny. Okay, so we've got 8 points for this title, which is another hefty point cost for a title. But the cool thing is it lets you treat your rear hull zone's printed battery armament as if it were 3 red dice, which means your salvos now are going to get 3 dice at long range, which is really nice. Real nice there. I like that. It also changes your side armaments, right? Your left and right hull zone are each increased by a black die and decreased by a blue die. So what's so interesting about that is the fact that you're getting extra, like depending on which version you run, you may get rid of all. Like if you're running the Dreadnought, which only has 1 blue anyway, now it's 3 black and 3 red. And so like you can just, I kind of like the whole long range aspect of it, and just like I'm gonna be really good at long range, but then I'm gonna even be better once I get into close range. It's like that kind of all or nothing kind of thing. It's not gonna be super great at medium range though, right? So So yeah, so that's a pretty cool card. I'm not sure exactly where this one fits into exactly how I want to play it, but I like what it does. I like that it's doing different stuff and it's changing the printed art armament too. So this way, and I mean, and honestly, this with spinal armament would be really cool because then if somebody gets behind you, you're gonna have a nice 4 red attack out of the back. Although your salvo will still only be 3. Pretty cool stuff. All right, you guys, so that is the Providence Class Dreadnought or Providence Class Carrier, aka the Invisible Hand expansion. As you can see, I've got it here kind of with some other ships of the Separatist fleet, and it's definitely, you know, here's kind of like a side-by-side of it with a Munificent, and that just fell off as I'm doing this. There we go. That's a little bit better. Yeah, and so there we go. It's a, you know, it's a little bit, well, it kind of gives you an idea. It's about just shy of having each of these ships kind of lined up, kind of end to end. So that kind of gives you a good kind of estimate of how it will look. Now we also have, I did say I wanted to kind of compare it to the Home 1. Man, it's almost exactly the same kind of size as the Home 1. Look at that. Almost exactly. Let's see. I gotta take these off because this is it feels a lot like it. The Home 1's obviously a little thicker in the middle, but as far as length, it's like identical. There we go. Holding it in my hands is just with the fingers touching right there. So the exact same length as the Home 1, and the side profile very, very similar. Obviously, this one's, you know, a little bit wider in the middle, and this one's more narrow. This one's keto, so it lost a lot of weight. This one is it's going kind of carb heavy, extra pizza. So that's okay though. You know what? We're all beautiful. And again, I definitely sense the Mon Calamari kind of initiative here. And of course, it's not as big as an Imperial Star Destroyer, but you know what? I'm absolutely okay with that. Not everything has to be ISD sized. I mean, this is the crowning beauty of this game. Well, right next to the Super Star Destroyer, of course. Although the Starhawk is actually pretty cool too. But yeah, so no, I like it. Can't wait to see it on the battlefield. I wish it could have had the Recusant kind of show up at the same day, so this way I could be flying alongside more ships of the line, you know, but so be it. One at a time it is. We'll be doing all the rest of the Wave 10 ships for Armada, as well as more Armada news, as well as more X-Wing, Star Wars news in general, Legion news, all kinds of gaming news. So if you guys haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button. Check those links out down in the video description below. Leave a comment, leave the video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, tell everybody, scream from the mountains, it's Wave 10 time. It's time to play with Armada ships. I don't know why I'm singing. Woo! Thank you guys so much. Big thanks to my patrons as well. You guys are amazing, and I couldn't do this without your continued support. So thank you all so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.